Michael Savage.
With the government taking over our financial industries, it seems like less capitalism and more socialism every day. Seems that the Obama administration not only has the media train, but now big business too. Well, joining us to talk about this is Wayne Allyn Root from RootForAmerica.com.
Thank you, Michael Savage. Hey, capitalism has worked pretty darn well for 200-plus years now, with just a couple of off years in the middle. But one of those off years has been the last year, unfortunately. And this short-term blip has been a disaster for capitalism. Now, I think it's been caused by meddling government bureaucrats and corruption and conflicts of interest by leftist politicians like Chris Dodd and Barney Frank and Nancy Pelosi, and the latest scandal of the day involving California Senator Dianne Feinstein. But we'll get back to that later. Right now, let's deal with the disaster at hand, because the real disaster here isn't our economic Armageddon, because as bad as things are, and I think they're getting worse, perhaps far worse, we were always going to recover, because capitalism always recovers. Because of capitalism, because of free markets, because of personal responsibility, because of self-reliance and rugged individualism and limited government, those are the attributes and principles that have made America the greatest country in world history and have made capitalism the greatest economic system ever. But the real disaster is that we may not have capitalism anymore. Obama is trying to use this crisis as an opportunity to kill capitalism, to put American CEOs on a leash like his new puppy Bo, to neuter the opposition like his new puppy Bo, to force CEOs to beg for help like, well, you get the idea, like Bo, to force the most powerful captains of industry to obey him like a dog. The new White House puppy Bo is now the role model for Obama's business plan. He's going to hijack business and take control of America's economy because of this crisis. In the old days, meaning a few months ago, when capitalism was working well, Obama couldn't order CEOs around. The captains of Wall Street and banking would have told him to shove off. But here's the problem. The last year has been the worst year in the history of big business, as reported only days ago by Fortune magazine. The worst ever. Wall Street is failing. Banks are failing. Public companies are failing. The big three automakers are drowning. Big insurance companies like AIG failing and flailing, and media companies are failing left and right. And this was the perfect opening for the socialists.
Mm-hmm.
If you want his bailout money, keep in mind, his money, of course, is our taxpayer money, but he's in control of it. So Obama doles it out only to whom he wants, only to those that play ball and play by his rules. Obama is now the boss of bosses, the capo di tutti capi, as we say in New York when discussing John Gotti and organized crime. Obama is the godfather. He now orders CEOs around like Bo the puppy. They've all been fixed. Dissent is verboten. Obama says sit, and they sit. Stay, and they stay. Quiet, and they shut their mouths. Fetch, and they run for the ball. Obama says jump, and the CEOs say how high. If you run an auto company and you want bailout money, you've got to use it according to Obama's rules. You've got to prop up the bloated union contracts that bankrupted your company in the first place. You got to limit the salaries of your executives, even if it means Obama will fire all the best executives and choose the worst ones willing to work for less pay. You've got to cancel your SUVs, even if they're the best-selling product line you've got, like, say, Jeep Cherokee, and you've got to build only small green cars approved by Barack Obama and his friends. You either do what Obama says, or you're fired, or your company fails, but either way, you're jobless. You get to join the long unemployment line. If you run a bank, you either loan to Obama's friends or to green projects, meaning environmental friendly or politically correct, even if they make no economic sense at all, or you loan mortgage money to low-income or minority applicants, friends of Acorn, or it's curtains for you. You're fired. There's no bailout. The banks are gone, and you're jobless. Either way, you join the unemployment line. If you're a real estate developer, a home builder, you either build green projects with your partner being Obama's hand-chosen friends, or you build in low-income neighborhoods that Obama approves of. Whether the plan makes any economic sense, well, that doesn't really matter. You got to do what Obama says. He's the boss of bosses. The answer is always yes, or you get to fall on your sword.
Exactly.
And by the way, How on earth would Obama know if a project or a loan makes economic sense? He's never taken an economics course in his life. I should know. I'm his Columbia College classmate, class of 1983. He's never founded a business. He's never funded a business. He's never run a business. He's never risked a dime of his own money on a business. He's never created a job in his life. He wouldn't have to turn a profit if it hit him in the face. But here's the worst part of all this. The media. See, it's one thing to control banks, Wall Street, automakers, real estate tycoons, but how about newspapers, TV stations, and radio stations? They're going under left and right. They can't survive without government loans. So now even the news is corrupted. The liberal media was always biased to the left, but at least they pretended they had some non-bias. They could hide their liberal bias just to pretend, but not anymore. Take GE, which owns NBC and MSNBC and CNBC. The CEO is Jeffrey Immelt, and NBC has a CEO named Jeffrey Zucker. These two wimps are so mesmerized by Obama's spell that they think he walks on water. Zucker and Immelt reportedly threw a party for CNBC's brass and journalists last week, the top brass at CNBC. And once there, they dropped the hint. Dissent is not allowed. Lay off Obama. Criticism is not appreciated or wanted. Get the hint? CNBC reporters and anchors are now neutered like Bo the puppy. Just like their bosses, Immelt and Zucker. Neutered. Gone. Zero. It's all over. MSNBC certainly got the memo. Janine Garofalo was a guest last week, the day after the Tea Parties, and on an MSNBC talk show, she called all the Tea Party attendees, the protesters, white, redneck racists.
Unbelievable.
She said everyone at those Tea Parties was ignorant, knows nothing about the Boston Tea Party, and they all hate Obama. And she says, you know why they hate Obama? Because he's black. No response from the MSNBC host, no question, no comment, no debate, no dissent. How is this all possible? Forget the puppy Bo. If the media was honest, they'd show Obama walking Jeffrey Immelt and Jeffrey Zucker on a leash on the White House lawn. Because Jeffrey Immelt is a good, well-behaved puppy, he was actually rewarded recently. Obama named him to the White House Economic Recovery Team. Can you imagine? Since Immelt joined GE, their market cap is down as much as 80%. He's effectively destroyed GE. NBC, even worse. The ratings in the toilet, the revenues in the toilet. Great business leaders these guys are, huh? And yet Obama names them to the Economic Recovery Team. Only someone with zero business experience like Obama. But here's the big question. Why are we abandoning capitalism after two bad years in the last century, 1929 and 2008, and putting government in charge? Government loses money every department, every second of every day. It's magical. Only people who couldn't get a job in the private sector could even manage this feat. Go ahead. Name a year in history that government has ever succeeded in making a profit. You can't. Not only because it's never happened, but because it isn't possible. You see, government isn't in business. They're set up to tax. That's it. They tax the people that are in business. Then they spend all the money, plus, about 25% more. Then they raise taxes again. Then they run an even bigger deficit. Then they raise taxes even higher on the next sucker. You know what you call this in the real world? A Ponzi scheme. What a racket. Bernie Madoff looks like a piker next to government. The mafia has nothing on these guys. One big Ponzi scheme, all run by Barack Obama, a guy who has never successfully run a bodega, a pet store, or a hair salon. So before you give up on capitalism, just remember who's running the show. The boss of bosses, the capo di tutti, is Barack Obama and big government bureaucrats, people who have never in their entire lives earned a profit. Not once, not for a minute, not a penny. This is the guy ordering CEOs around like the hired help. This is the guy neutering CEOs like Bo the puppy. Can't you hear Obama in the halls of NBC? Jeffrey, take out the trash.
Wayne, as I've said before, Obama has never even run a hot dog stand, but now he's trying to run the banks. But enough of this Chairman Obama, the accidental president. I'll be right back. It's the Savage Nation.
Savage.